There are towns in Australia where your pension actually covers rent, groceries, and a night out without a single moment of dread when you check your balance. And no, they are not all in the middle of the desert with flies and despair. While everyone is staring at retirement calculators and realizing they will be working until they are 75, a quiet reality exists in places most Australians have never considered. Small towns. Actual functioning communities where $1,000 a month is not a punchline. It is an affordable lifestyle. We are talking median rents under $400 a week, dinners for $12, and property taxes that will not make you sell the car. But here is what nobody tells you. Cheap comes with conditions. Sometimes it is isolation. Sometimes it is weather that tests every assumption you made when you chose the postcode. And sometimes it is a town so small that your retirement hobby becomes knowing everyone's business whether you want to or not. Cheap has trade-offs. And today we are going to be honest about every single one of them. We are counting down 10 Australian towns where you can retire on $1,000 a month, ranked by how surprisingly livable, quietly brilliant, or honestly underrated they actually are. One town has more birds than people and rent under $300 a week. Another sits on a river so still in the mornings it looks like the sky fell into it. And there is one where the biggest weekly drama is who left the gate open at the community garden. Think retiring cheap in Australia means suffering? Let's find out. By the end, you will either be researching real estate or quietly grateful you can still afford your overpriced city apartment. Like this video if you are tired of retirement plans that require winning the lottery. Subscribe. Because you deserve to know these places exist. Let's break it down. Number 10. Broken Hill, New South Wales. Broken Hill will rent you a 2-bedroom house for under $350 a week, and the biggest decision you will face each morning is which direction to walk into a landscape that serious painters have been chasing for 100 years. Broken Hill sits in the far west of New South Wales, population around 17,000, and it has that particular quality that only old mining towns carry, a stubbornness, a weight, a sense that the place has survived things and is not particularly impressed by your problems. Here is what $1,000 a month gets you in Broken Hill. Rent for a 2-bedroom house sits around $300 to $350 a week. Groceries run about $280 a month if you are sensible. Utilities average around $150. Healthcare is solid, there is a base hospital right in town. The cost of living sits well below the national average. The remote area tax offset reduces your annual tax burden simply because of where you live, which for retirees on investment income or part pension can make a real difference. What nobody tells you is that Broken Hill is genuinely beautiful in a way that takes adjustment. The light is silver and flat and does things to color that you have never seen in the city. The art scene is real. This is the town that produced Pro Heart, that built an outdoor gallery across its walls and fences. The Palace Hotel has a ceiling painted by a local artist that people travel specifically to see. The catch is heat and distance. Summer temperatures regularly exceed 40 degrees. The nearest major city is hours away by road. If you need specialist medical care beyond what the local hospital provides, you are traveling. These are real considerations for retirees, not afterthoughts. One retiree who moved from Sydney wrote, "I spent 40 years worrying about money. I moved to Broken Hill and stopped. The pension covers everything and there is still something left at the end of the month. That has never happened before in my life." Picture this. You wake up in a house with a yard. You make coffee and sit on the veranda as the morning light comes in silver and flat across the plains. A wedge-tail eagle is doing something unhurried in the sky above the town. You have nowhere to be. Nothing is urgent. And your bank account has not sent you a notification in 3 weeks because nothing alarming has happened to it. Broken Hill is not glamorous. But for retirees on fixed incomes, unglamorous and solvent is a combination worth taking seriously. Number 9. Port Augusta, South Australia. Port Augusta sits at the top of Spencer Gulf where the outback meets the sea, and for retirees who need both affordability and access, it offers a combination that most people have never thought to look for. Population around 14,000. It is a real town with real infrastructure. A hospital, supermarkets, schools, a functioning economy built around transport and energy and the surrounding agricultural region. It is also the gateway to the Flinders Ranges, which means that some of the most dramatic landscape in South Australia is within an hour's drive. Here is the financial reality of retiring in Port Augusta. Rent for a two-bedroom house sits around $280 to $340 a week. Groceries average around $250 a month. Utilities are reasonable. The hospital is a full regional facility. Cost of living sits around 20% below the national average. You can genuinely live here on the pension without supplementing it from savings every single month. The town has a complicated history with industry and energy transition. It was home to coal-fired power stations that have now closed, and the community is navigating what comes next. That transition creates both challenge and opportunity. Property prices are low because the town is finding its feet. For retirees, low property prices mean lower rent, lower purchase prices if you want to buy, and a community that is genuinely invested in its own future. The Flinders Ranges deserve more than a mention. An hour north of Port Augusta, the ranges rise out of the plain in a way that stops you. Wilpena Pound, a natural amphitheater of ancient rock, is one of the genuinely extraordinary landscapes in this country. Retirees here drive up on weekday mornings when the tourists are not there and walk in silence through something 500 million years old. Someone who retired here after decades in Adelaide said, "People thought I was making a mistake. The town is rough around the edges. But I own my house outright, my pension covers everything else, and I spent last Thursday morning in the Flinders Ranges with nobody else around. I do not think I made a mistake." Picture this. It is early morning. The Gulf is still. You drive north into the ranges as the light comes up over the rock. The color of the stone changes as the sun rises, red to orange to something that has no name. You are retired. You have nowhere to be. And this landscape, this light, this silence, costs you nothing except the petrol. Number 8. Whyalla, South Australia. Whyalla has a marina, a steelworks, and housing so affordable that people who grew up there and left for the city are starting to come back. That last part is the tell. When people return, something is working. Whyalla sits on Spencer Gulf in South Australia, population around 22,000. It is an industrial city. Steel has been made here for over a century and the industry, though it has faced serious challenges, remains part of the town's identity and economy. Green steel transition projects are bringing new investment and new energy to a town that has been through uncertainty and come through it with a particular kind of resolve. Here is what retiring in Whyalla looks like financially. Rent for a two-bedroom house runs between $250 and $320 a week, some of the lowest in South Australia for a town of this size. Groceries average around $240 a month. Healthcare is covered by a regional hospital. The Marina Precinct has good walking access and a genuine sense of open space. Cost of living sits comfortably below the national average. The sea matters here. Spencer Gulf is calm, protected, not the wild Southern Ocean, and fishing from the jetty or the rocks is a genuine part of retired life in Whyalla. The snorkeling and diving in the area is world-class, particularly for weedy sea dragons, which gather here in numbers found nowhere else. Retirees who came for cheap housing discovered the marine environment and stayed for it. One couple who retired here from Adelaide wrote, "We were embarrassed to tell people at first. Whyalla has a reputation. But we are 600 meters from the water, we pay $290 a week in rent, and we dive twice a week. I do not know what we were embarrassed about." Picture this. It is late afternoon. You are walking along the marina foreshore. The Gulf is that particular flat calm that only sheltered water achieves. A pelican is standing on a bollard with the absolute confidence of something that has never paid rent. Your finances are in order. Your week is empty in the best possible way. The diving is tomorrow morning. Whyalla is not for everyone. The industrial history is visible. The town is finding its identity in transition. But for retirees who need low cost of living and access to the sea, it delivers both without compromise. Number 7. Mount Gambier, South Australia. Mount Gambier has a lake that turns blue every spring and a cost of living that makes Adelaide retirees feel like they have discovered something they should have found 20 years ago. Population around 30,000. It is the largest regional city in South Australia, which means it has the infrastructure of a real city. A full hospital, a university campus, multiple supermarkets, restaurants with menus longer than one page, a farmer's market that takes itself seriously, while housing costs sit dramatically below anything you would find in Adelaide. Here is the retirement arithmetic in Mount Gambier. Rent for a 2-bedroom house runs $300 to $380 a week. A 2-bedroom unit can be found for less. Groceries average around $250 a month. Healthcare is genuinely good, the regional hospital is well regarded. Entertainment is cheap or free. The crater lakes, the cave systems, the national parks, the Coonawarra wine region an hour away, none of these cost you what equivalent nature and culture would cost in a capital city. The Blue Lake is worth dwelling on because it is genuinely extraordinary. From November to March, the lake, which sits inside a volcanic crater, turns a blue so vivid and so unreasonable that first-time visitors stop walking and simply look at it for a while. It is a crater lake behaving in a way that crater lakes are not supposed to behave, and locals have the particular satisfaction of watching tourists react to something they see every year. One retiree who moved from suburban Adelaide said, "My children thought I had lost the plot. But I bought a unit here for $220,000. My pension covers my expenses comfortably. And I walk to the lake in the morning and it is blue and I think, I made the right call." The winters in Mount Gambier are real, cold enough to require a proper winter wardrobe, cold enough to have frosts, cold enough to make you appreciate the fireplace. This is not Queensland. But the winters are also the season when the town is quieter, when the tourists are gone, and the place belongs to the people who live there. Picture this. It is a spring morning. You walk to the crater rim as the light comes up. Below you the lake has turned. That blue. That particular, unreasonable, world-stopping blue. You have a coffee in a thermos. You have nowhere to be until Thursday. Mount Gambier is doing what it does, which is being extraordinary without making a fuss about it. Number 6. Albury-Wodonga, New South Wales and Victoria. Albury-Wodonga sits on the Murray River on the border of New South Wales and Victoria, and for retirees it offers something rare, a genuinely livable regional city with the river, the infrastructure, and a cost of living that does not require choosing between medication and groceries. Combined population around 100,000, which makes it one of the larger regional centres in inland Australia. It has everything a retiree needs without the cost of a capital city. Multiple hospitals and specialist medical services, a university campus, good shopping, excellent restaurants, a cultural life that punches above its weight, and the Murray River running through it like a long slow answer to a question about what retirement should feel like. Here is what the numbers look like. Rent for a 2-bedroom house in Albury or Wodonga runs between $350 and $450 a week depending on location and quality. It is not the cheapest on this list, but the infrastructure and services you receive for that rent are significantly better than the more isolated options. Groceries average around $260 a month. Healthcare is genuinely excellent for a regional city. The cost of living sits around 15% below the national average. The Murray River is the feature. Walking trails run along both banks. Rowing clubs and kayaking. Shaded river beaches where you can swim in summer in water that is genuinely clean. In the evenings the light on the river does something calm and unhurried and absolutely free. Retirees walk here every morning and every evening and the river does not charge for admission. One retiree who relocated from Melbourne said, "I thought I would miss the city. I missed it for about 3 weeks. Then I started walking along the river every morning and I genuinely could not explain what I had been doing with my time before." The border situation is occasionally bureaucratic. 2 states means 2 sets of rules for some services, and navigating healthcare and licensing across the border has caused confusion. This is a real consideration, particularly for healthcare, and worth researching before committing. Picture this. It is a summer evening. You are sitting by the Murray as the light goes gold on the water. Someone is fishing further along the bank. A family of ducks is doing something decisive near the reeds. Your dinner is not expensive. Your rent is manageable. The river is doing what it has been doing for 10,000 years, which is flowing slowly toward the sea and not caring about interest rates. Number 5. Devonport, Tasmania. Devonport is where the Spirit of Tasmania ferry docks, which means it has the particular energy of a place people pass through, and the particular advantage of infrastructure built for more traffic than it currently receives. Population around 30,000. It sits on the north coast of Tasmania at the mouth of the Mersey River, and it has the feel of a working port town that has been quietly becoming something more considered. There is a new waterfront precinct. There is a growing food scene. There are mountains behind the town that you can see from the main street, and a river in front, and the bay straight beyond that, and on clear days the horizon does something to the sky that makes you understand why painters come to Tasmania. Here is the retirement financial picture in Devonport. Rent for a 2-bedroom house runs between $280 and $360 a week. Tasmania's cost of living has been rising but remains below mainland levels for housing specifically. Groceries average around $250 to $270 a month. The regional hospital is full service. The Mona ferry to Hobart runs regularly and Mona itself, one of the most extraordinary museums in the world, is accessible as a day trip. The Tasmanian remote area provisions provide some financial benefit for residents in designated areas. What makes Devonport interesting for retirees beyond the numbers is proximity. You are an hour from Cradle Mountain. You are an hour from the Tamar Valley wine region. You are 2 hours from Hobart. You are in Tasmania, which means you are in the island that Australia tends to overlook until people visit it and then cannot stop talking about it. One retiree who moved from Brisbane said, "I thought I was making a compromise. I was not making a compromise. I was getting a better version of the life I wanted for less money than the version I had." The winters in Devonport are genuine. Tasmania is cold. The wind off the Bass Strait is a real presence in your life from May to August. If you need warmth as a non-negotiable, this is not the list entry for you. But if you find that cold air and quiet mornings and the smell of rain on eucalyptus are things you have been missing, Devonport in winter is the kind of place that makes you understand why people talk about Tasmania the way they do. Picture this. It is early morning. A light rain is falling. The Mersey River is flat and grey and the kind of beautiful that does not require sunshine to be beautiful. You are in a warm house you can afford. The mountains are in the clouds. By afternoon the clouds will lift and the mountains will be there, as they always are, reminding you that you live somewhere that has always been worth living. Number 4. Ballarat, Victoria. Ballarat has gold rush architecture, a genuine cultural life, for seasons, and housing that makes Melbourne retirees feel like they have finally been let in on a secret that should have been obvious. Population around 110,000. It is Victoria's 3rd largest city, which means it has the depth of services and culture that smaller towns cannot offer: specialist medical care, a university, multiple hospitals, a thriving art scene, a food culture that would not embarrass a capital city, and history written into the streetscape in a way that makes walking through town feel like walking through time. Here is what retiring in Ballarat actually costs. Rent for a 2-bedroom house runs between $350 and $450 a week. To buy, a two-bedroom house in good condition can be found for between $350,000 and $500,000, dramatically less than Melbourne. Groceries average around $250 to $270 a month. Healthcare is strong with multiple hospitals and specialist services. Cost of living sits around 12% below Melbourne. The V/line train to Melbourne takes about an hour and 20 minutes. This is the number that changes everything for Ballarat retirees. You can attend a specialist appointment in the city, see family, catch a show, and be home for dinner. The city is not cut off. It is simply cheaper to live away from it, and the train makes that possible without requiring a car and a 2-hour freeway drive. Lake Wendouree is the feature that retirees who live near it mention first and most often. A large ornamental lake in the center of the city, surrounded by gardens and walking paths, it hosted the 1956 Olympic rowing events and now hosts the daily ritual of retirees walking its 4-kilometer perimeter in the company of black swans, coots, and each other. It is free. It is beautiful. It is there every morning. One retiree who moved from a Bayside Melbourne suburb said, "I was paying $1,800 a week in rent. I moved to Ballarat and pay $400. The maths took about 30 seconds. I do not know why it took me so long. The Ballarat winters are cold. Properly cold. Frost on the car, breath visible in the morning air, the need for a good coat and an understanding of central heating. This is not a mild winter. But the Ballarat autumn, the golden deciduous trees along the streets, the light through the elms on Sturt Street, is one of the genuinely beautiful seasonal experiences in Victoria. Picture this. It is a winter morning. You walk to Lake Wendouree as the mist sits on the water. The black swans are doing their slow, deliberate thing near the reeds. The gardens are bare and architectural. The cold is real and clean. You have a coffee from the kiosk that costs $4.50. Your pension is in the account. Your specialist appointment is next Tuesday in Melbourne and the train takes an hour and a quarter. Everything is manageable. Some mornings, more than manageable. Number 3. Toowoomba, Queensland. Toowoomba sits on top of the Great Dividing Range at an altitude of 690 meters and it has the best-kept retirement secret in Queensland, which is that you can have the Queensland lifestyle without the Queensland heat because the elevation makes the climate something else entirely. Population around 140,000. It is Queensland's largest inland city and one of Australia's fastest-growing regional centres. The infrastructure is serious. 2 major hospitals including a private hospital, a university, excellent schools, a food scene that has been developing genuinely interesting restaurants and cafes, a garden culture that is exceptional. The Carnival of Flowers each September draws visitors from across the country to see what Toowoomba does with its parks and private gardens when the jacarandas and roses come out simultaneously. Here is the retirement financial picture. Rent for a 2-bedroom house in Toowoomba runs between $320 and $420 a week. To buy, a 3-bedroom family home can be found for between $350,000 and $500,000. Dramatically below the Brisbane median. Groceries average around $250 a month. Healthcare is excellent with strong specialist services. Cost of living sits around 14% below Brisbane. The altitude is the feature. While Brisbane swelters through summer at 35 to 40 degrees, Toowoomba sits several degrees cooler. While the coast runs humid from November to March with the heavy, wet air that makes sleep difficult and activity exhausting, Toowoomba stays drier and more manageable. For retirees who want Queensland without the tropical punishment, this is the answer. The drive down the range to the Lockyer Valley and the Darling Downs is a feature in itself. Agricultural Queensland, the flat rich soil of the Darling Downs, the vegetable gardens that supply much of the country's produce. All of this is in the immediate surrounds of Toowoomba, and farmers' markets here carry produce that was in the ground 48 hours ago. One retiree who moved from the Gold Coast said, "Everyone thought I was going backwards. I was paying $2,000 a week on the coast for a unit. I now pay $380 for a house with a garden. I grow vegetables. I have never grown anything in my life. I do not know what took me so long. Picture this. It is a September morning during the flower festival. The jacaranda trees have dropped purple across every footpath in the city. The roses in Queen's Park are doing what they do in the second week of spring, which is performing their brief, emphatic, annual argument for beauty. Your garden has things growing in it that you planted. Your rent is $380. The altitude means the morning is cool and clear. Life has become, without drama, genuinely good. Number 2. Orange, New South Wales. Orange has 4 seasons, a wine region, cherry blossoms in spring, and a cost of living that makes Sydney retirees feel a specific kind of emotion that sits somewhere between relief and mild fury at the years they spent paying Sydney prices. Population around 45,000. Elevation 860 meters. The cool climate means the 4 seasons are real. Autumn turns the deciduous trees along the main streets amber and gold, winter brings frosts and the occasional snowfall on the ranges, spring arrives with the cherry blossoms at Nashdale and the new wine season, summer is warm but manageable. After decades of living in a city where seasons are a rumor, Orange retirees speak about the seasons with a particular gratitude. Here is what retiring in Orange actually costs. Rent for a 2-bedroom house runs between $350 and $450 a week. To buy, houses in good condition start from around $350,000. Groceries average around $250 a month. Healthcare is covered by a full-base hospital with reasonable specialist services. For major specialist care, the train to Sydney takes 3 hours. Cost of living sits around 15 to 18% below Sydney. The food and wine culture in Orange is genuine. This is not regional Australia making do. The cool climate vineyards around Orange have been producing internationally recognized wines for 2 decades. The restaurants in town source locally with seriousness. The farmers' market on Saturday mornings is the kind of market that city food writers travel to visit. For retirees who care about eating well, Orange delivers in a way that most regional centers at this price point simply do not. The train to Sydney runs daily and takes approximately 3 hours. This matters for retirees who need specialist medical appointments, who want to visit family, who need the occasional city fix and then want to come back to something quieter and more affordable. One retiree who moved from Sydney's northern suburbs said, "I can describe my retirement in one sentence. I have a garden, I eat better than I ever did in Sydney, my expenses are covered by the pension, and I watched the seasons change from a chair on my veranda. I paid 40 years for the right to say that sentence, and Orange is where I finally get to." The winters in Orange are cold. Below zero overnight temperatures are not rare. Frost is a regular morning feature from June to August. The heating bill in winter is real. This is worth knowing before you make the decision. Picture this. It is a Saturday morning in autumn. You are at the farmer's market. Someone is pressing apple juice from local fruit in a hand press and handing out samples in small paper cups. The light is the particular clear gold that autumn light is in cool climates. Your bags are full of things that were growing in the ground 3 days ago. Your rent is paid. Your pension covered it. The jacaranda at the end of your street has gone gold at the tips and you are thinking about nothing in particular, which is the correct thing to think about on a Saturday morning when you are retired and everything is, quietly, fine. Number 1. Armidale, New South Wales. Armidale takes the top spot because it offers something no other town on this list quite manages. Affordability combined with genuine intellectual and cultural life, a university town energy that keeps the place curious and alive, for proper seasons in a landscape of gorges and tablelands that is one of the most underrated in New South Wales, and a cost of living so far below Sydney that retirees who make the move tend to describe it in the specific terms usually reserved for discovering something important. Population around 25,000. Elevation 980 meters. The highest city in New South Wales. The University of New England has been here since 1954, which means Armadale has the bookshops, the galleries, the concert series, the public lectures, the quality of conversation and the depth of community life that university towns accumulate over decades. There is a New England Regional Art Museum that holds work of genuine national significance. There are 2 cathedrals. There are cafes where the conversation at the next table is about something interesting. Here is the retirement financial picture in Armadale. Rent for a 2-bedroom house runs between $280 and $360 a week, among the lowest for a town of this quality and infrastructure in New South Wales. To buy, a 3-bedroom house in a good street can be found for between $280,000 and $400,000. Groceries average around $240 a month. Healthcare is covered by a full-base hospital with reasonable specialist services. For major procedures, the New England Highway connects to Tamworth and beyond. Cost of living sits around 20 to 23% below Sydney. The gorges are not a minor feature. Within an hour of Armadale, the New England tablelands drop into a series of dramatic gorges. Woollumbambe Falls, one of the highest waterfalls in Australia, is 45 minutes away. Cathedral Rocks National Park. Oxley Wild Rivers National Park. Waterfalls, granite country, dry sclerophyll forest giving way to the gorge systems. Retirees here walk in landscapes that most Australians do not know exist. The seasons in Armadale are real and they are serious. Winter is cold. Genuinely cold, with overnight temperatures below 0 from June to August and the occasional snowfall on the tablelands. The heating costs are real. The need for good winter clothing is real. For retirees coming from Sydney or Brisbane, the first Armadale winter requires adjustment. The second one is something you look forward to. One retiree who moved from the inner west of Sydney said, "People ask me if I miss Sydney. I miss the food diversity occasionally. I miss nothing else. I have a house I could afford to buy, a town that has something happening in it every week, gorges I can walk into on a Tuesday morning with nobody else there, and my pension covers my life. I cannot explain why I did not do this 10 years ago. Actually I can. I was afraid it would be a compromise. It is not a compromise. The cultural life deserves more than a mention because it is genuinely unusual for a town of this size. The university brings visiting lecturers, musicians, and researchers to public events year-round. The gallery holds changing exhibitions of real quality. The New England Regional Art Museum's permanent collection includes work by Russell Drysdale and Donald Friend. There are community choirs, bushwalking clubs, garden groups, book clubs, film societies. The infrastructure of a curious life is here, and for retirees who were afraid that leaving the city meant leaving intellectual life behind, Armadale is the specific answer to that specific fear. Picture this. It is a Tuesday morning in July. There was frost overnight. The light is winter light, thin and clear and the kind that makes everything look precisely itself. You are walking into a gorge 45 minutes from your house. The waterfall is running high from the autumn rains. There is nobody else here. The sound is the water and the wind and nothing else. You are 67 years old. Your pension is in your account. Your house is warm. You have a public lecture at the university on Thursday evening that you have been looking forward to since you saw it in the program. Your life is, in the most unspectacular and therefore most genuine sense of the word, good. And in that quiet hush, beneath the whispering gums, in the gorges and the tablelands and the frost-cold mornings and the lake walks and the river towns and the volcanic craters, I realize not all shadows hide. Some simply invite us to see. We just counted down 10 Australian towns where you can retire on $1,000 a month. Some will stretch your pension further than you thought possible. Some will give you nature. Some will give you community. Some will give you a life that feels, after years of financial pressure, like permission to stop, to rest, to finally be somewhere without the constant low hum of money anxiety underneath everything. The costs are real. The distances are real. The trade-offs are real. But so is the possibility that somewhere in this vast, ancient, quietly extraordinary country, there is a town with your name on it and a life you have not let yourself imagine yet. Like this video if you are tired of retirement being a luxury only the wealthy can afford. Subscribe, because you deserve to know these places exist. What moment made you realize the life you wanted was somewhere you had not looked yet? Share it below. Because you are not the only one asking. This video expresses poetic and reflective storytelling. Cost of living figures and rental prices are based on publicly available information and may vary. Always conduct your own research and seek independent financial advice before making relocation decisions. It does not offer financial, legal, or medical advice.